My name is Rachel Glazer, and I am the Community Engagement Program Manager at the Goldring Woldenberg Institute of Southern Jewish Life. Today, we'll be talking about the holiday of Hanukkah. Before we dive into that, I want to tell you a little bit about the ISJL. So although we're based in Jackson, Mississippi, we actually serve a 13-state region across the southern United States. Our mission is to support, connect, and celebrate Jewish life in the South. We do this through a variety of methods, from education in Sunday school and Hebrew school, to providing rabbinical services to congregations who might not have full-time clergy, to recording oral histories and maintaining an encyclopedia of Southern Jewish communities, to organizing Jewish and civil rights tours around the southern U.S., to providing cultural programming in the form of musicians and lecturers and authors who come to congregations either in person or virtually, and through my department, community engagement, by engaging in social justice and working with the communities that we're a part of to create more understanding among us. So let's talk a little bit about Hanukkah. Today is December 17th. It's the last day of Hanukkah for 2021, but I'm still excited to be here to share with you a little bit about the story so that when next year comes around, you understand what this holiday is all about. Hanukkah is actually known by several different names. It can be spelled several different ways. Since it's a Hebrew word and not an English word, you might have seen it with a CH or two N's or two K's or no H on the end, but they all amount to Hanukkah. It's also known as the Festival of Lights or the Festival of Rededication. And when we talk about the history and the story behind Hanukkah in a minute, you'll understand why. Some important symbols of Hanukkah that you might have recognized are the dreidel and the menorah. And these objects help us remember the story of Hanukkah. So to tell that story, we need to travel back in time to the year 167 BCE. Now, Hanukkah actually does not appear in the Torah because in the time span of Judaism, it's actually fairly recent. Judaism's been around about 5,000 years, and these events only happened about 2,000 years ago. So we are in Judea, and the Syrian Greek king Antiochus is forbidding the Jews of Judea from worshiping their God or practicing their traditions. Under his oppressive regime, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem was defiled and turned into a pagan shrine. Now, obviously, the Jews of Judea were not happy about this. Judaism is monotheistic, meaning we only worship one God. And so being forced to worship statues of multiple gods was unheard of for the Jewish people. We also don't engage in idolatry. We don't do sacrifices of pigs or other animals that were being brought into the Holy Temple and defiling it at that time. So there were lots of people who were very upset about this. And the most famous one is a man named Judah the Maccabee. He was a military leader and a zealot. He was the first phase of the result of he was the military leader of the first phase of the revolt. He was also the eldest son of the priest Mattathias or Mattiyahu. So in the autumn of 164 BCE, Judah and his followers were able to recapture the temple in Jerusalem, and he gained the notorious nickname the Hammer. So Judah Maccabee, the Hammer, because of the way that they would come in and strike fast using what I believe we now know as guerrilla warfare. So they recaptured the temple, they cleansed it, and they rededicated it to the Jewish God. One of the important things that they had to do in order to rededicate the temple was to relight the eternal flame. This was an oil lamp that continuously burns and reminds us of God's eternal presence. Now, here's where the miracle of Hanukkah comes in. When they went to light the lamp, they found they only had enough sanctified oil for one day. And they said, "So no, all right, we've done what we can do. God will have to understand. We'll light it for one day, even though it will take at least a week for us to get more sanctified oil." So they light the lamp, and miracle of miracles, the lamp burns for 8 full days. So this is why Jews light candles every Hanukkah in a special 9-branched candle holder called a menorah or a Hanukkah. The extra branch is for the shamash or the helper candle. We light that one first, and then we use it to light all of the other candles. So each night we add on one more candle so we can see the light and warmth of God's miracles grow. Now, historically, rabbinically speaking, there were some arguments about should we start with 8 candles and dwindle down to 1, or should we start with 1 and build up to 8? And Hillel the Elder won that argument, which is why we start with 1 and add a candle every night till we have a full menorah or Chanukiah on night 8, which is tonight. Jews from around the world have a wide variety of traditions and ways of celebrating, but a common way that we remember this miracle is to eat foods that have been fried in oil. So some of my favorites are latkes, which are potato pancakes, often served with applesauce or sour cream, strangely enough, or sufganiyot, which are jelly-filled donuts. We've all enjoyed a good jelly-filled donut. One of the ways we share the story of this miracle with our children is through a game called dreidel. You might have heard the song, "Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel, I made it out of clay." Well, these days, many dreidels are made of wood or plastic, all sorts of materials, but the game is essentially the same. It's a spinning top with 4 letters on each side, and the goal of the game is to win as much gelt or chocolate coins as you can. Now, you might be asking, why in the world would you have children play a gambling game on this holiday? Well, again, it's because of a story. And the story is that when the Jews were trying to worship in secret, because they weren't allowed to study Torah or have worship services out in public under King Antiochus's regime, they would study in secret and have a lookout. And when the lookout saw the soldiers coming, they would hide everything away and pretend like they had been gathering there to gamble with a wooden top. So kids love this game. Everybody has a lot of fun with it. And we usually play with gelt, those chocolate coins, but sometimes people play for other things. Let's see. So the words on the dreidel, the letters on the dreidel, stand for the words Nes Gadol Haya Sham, which means a great miracle happened there, referring to the miracle in the Holy Temple. Now, when you spin the top and it lands with one of those letters face up, there's a different action for each letter. So if I spin and I get the letter Nun, that means I don't get any of the gelt in the pot and it goes to the next person. If I spin and I get a gimel, though, I get everything in the pot. So, of course, everybody wants to spin a gimel. If I spin and it lands on hay, I get half. And if it lands on shin, I have to put one back in. Now, in Israel, the dreidels actually stand for a different phrase. Instead of Nes Gadol Haya Sham, which means there, they say Nes Gadol Haya Po, which means here, because a great miracle happened here in the temple in Jerusalem. So on the dreidels, instead of the shin, they have the letter Pei, which is this swirly letter you see there. So Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday that we've talked about. You know now that it lasts for 8 days, and you might be thinking of it as the Jewish Christmas because it usually happens in December. We give gifts, and it's gained a lot of popularity over the past century. But in actuality, it's a pretty minor Jewish holiday. It doesn't appear in the Torah, like I said before, and the gift-giving element really only came about in the last century because young Jewish people like me saw our friends getting presents over Christmas and thought, hey, that seems like a pretty good idea. So although Hanukkah isn't the Jewish Christmas, there are some similarities. We come together as a community, we sing songs, and we exchange presents. Most importantly, Hanukkah celebrates liberation from oppression and reminds us that all people deserve the freedom to worship as they choose. Hanukkah, of course, has been a little different this year, but many families have celebrated over Zoom and found new ways to make this holiday special. I hope that you've learned a lot today in our 10 minutes together, and I wish you a happy Hanukkah. And before I leave you, I want to tell you a little bit more about the programs that ISJL does in partnership with the local library system. So we've been very lucky to partner with the Jackson Hinds Library System for the past about 4 years through a program called Our Reading Family. This is an awesome program where we bring together 1st through 6th grade students and their caregivers for several hours over the course of several weeks of learning, playing, reading, and growing together. Our goal is to help parents and caregivers find a way to support their child academically while making literacy fun. This year, we have transitioned to doing it virtually. So over the course of 4 Saturdays, for about 90 minutes each, we bring together a small cohort of families to play fun literacy activities together, discover new techniques to incorporate reading, writing, speaking, and listening into common things they would already be doing around the house, provide parents with tools for supporting their child academically, and create a fun family ritual that's centered around literacy. There is a cohort of Our Reading Family coming up in partnership with the Junior League of Jackson. That begins on January 23rd. And if you're interested in registering your family or getting more information, you can email engagement@isjl.org or visit isjl.org/our-reading-family. Thank you so much for joining me for today's presentation on Hanukkah from the ISJL, and I hope you have a wonderful winter.